Good day, gentlemen. This is SwashbucklingSir here, and today we critique Fearless Fantasy, a turn-based combat game that drives interactivity with a player by enforcing mouse gestures to successfully complete the selected attacks and abilities. First of all, let's delve into the graphical fidelity of Fearless Fantasy, and let me be frank with you here. This game looks rubbish. Two-dimensional artwork that has a varying degree of texture resolution ranging from low to incredibly low. The characters are disconnected from the world due to a lack of shadows, the spell effects trot along the same lines. Honestly, the only good thing I can say about the aesthetics of Fearless Fantasy is that at least the enemy design is creative and even wackier than Dark Scavenger was. The sound design of Fearless Fantasy also has a huge variance in terms of quality. While the sound effects and music are decent, though highly forgettable, the voice actors on the other hand, oh boy. It has to be said though, that these voice actors had to work with possibly the worst dialogue I've ever had the pleasure to witness. Just have a listen for yourself.
Hey, this isn't the way. Where are we going?
Quick detour.
The only thing that will kill Deothus is the venom from an Ira.
What's an Ira?
The most poisonous beast you'll ever meet. There are only few in the world, and one of them is around here.
Jimmery Biscuits! So you're saying this poison will be able to stop Deothus? Jimmery Biscuits! I'll be glad to get these boots off. My feet are killing me.
Suck it up, we're almost there.
And Jimmery Biscuits is not even the worst thing you will hear while playing this game. There is such an obnoxious amount of something not jokes in Fearless Fantasy that I probably should go see my dentist due to all the cringing that I was forced to conduct while playing. So while the art style evokes possible humoristic influences of Terry Pratchett or The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the game instead throws boring and repetitive low-blow jokes into your way. Disappointing. Now, let's get to the gameplay and the core innovative idea of Fearless Fantasy. A combination of turn-based combat with timed mouse gestures. Honestly, the idea is actually really good. The first few combat scenarios are interesting, require some getting used to in terms of timing, and are genuinely refreshing to play. Sadly, the fun only lasts for so long, as a ton of problems surface very soon. First of all, every ability and every attack has the same pattern, so that sooner or later you will know exactly what is coming up and start mindlessly gesturing across the screen. I would have highly preferred to have a randomized pattern to keep things constantly interesting. To make matters even worse, sometimes my mouse clearly went through one of the arrows, for example in the straight line. However, for whatever reason, one of the arrows was not registered and therefore the attack had a significantly lower damage amount. Which brings me to my next point in combat. Even though I really do like that hitting the timing perfectly empowers your ability and matching the timing of enemies' attacks reduces their effectiveness, this system sadly is incredibly inconsistent. I did several tests restarting the same level over and over again and found that even if I managed to get a flawless block, I sometimes ended up getting no damage or 20 damage, which is a huge difference. The same is true for attacking, rendering the whole reward of actually hitting the timing naught, and destroys the satisfaction of actually playing. Speaking of the non-existence of satisfaction while playing Fearless Fantasy, the cherry on top of all the previously mentioned frustration is the grinding. As you can see, there are a set of stages in Fearless Fantasy with a set amount of waves of enemies that are meant to be defeated. Once a stage was completed, you can proceed to the next level. You will soon hit a point where a level is basically unbeatable because your party has not reached a certain experience point yet, thus requiring you to go back and replay previous stages with the exact same enemy setups, abilities, waves, everything just to grind your way to a higher level. I'm aware that grinding is a vital part of a lot of RPG games, especially for the JRPGs Fearless Fantasy is inspired by. The difference to those being, though, that in these traditional JRPGs, your party usually went from A to B to complete a certain task at B, while on the way you had to encounter random monsters, which you then defeated and gained rewards from. The important point being that you had a target, you were meant to be going someplace and this encounter just stood in your way. However, to proceed in your mission, you had to defeat it. In Fearless Fantasy, there's literally no incentive to go anywhere. as the world is split up in levels and thus going back to previous levels just for the mere sake of gaining experience is incredibly tedious and frankly dull. Now, I did not even mention all the little gripes I have with Fearless Fantasy. For example, the skill system poorly explains what happens after you upgrade an ability, only for you to find out later that due to the latest upgrade and the attached increase in energy cost, you now can only cast the spell once instead of twice, thus ruining the whole plan you had laid out previously. All in all, I'm honestly sad to see that such a promising idea was wasted with such poor execution on all fronts. Low fidelity aesthetics, horrible writing and voice acting, failures in multiple game design choices, and overall a really repetitive experience. If you're interested in the gameplay, you only get Fearless Fantasy at a heavy discount. As always, gentlemen, thank you very much for watching. If you like my content, please do share my channel with your friends. Have a great day. Goodbye.